Are you guys ready to bring back some history? Well, in today's video, we've got the Throwback two-stroke garage build shootout by Electron Fuel Systems. If you guys have been following along with the channel, my name is Greg Hitchko, and this has been a year-long project for me. It was a dream of mine about just before Thanksgiving last year, where I was done building the Chevy Trucks Kawasaki that I've got right here, and I was on to the next project, and it was very hard to choose what bike I wanted to do next. And I thought, why not do something cool? Why not do something that no one has ever seen before? Kind of bring back some feels in all of us, bring back all the two-strokes from my favorite Supercross season, the 2005 AMA Supercross season with James Stewart, Chad Reed, Ricky Carmichael, and Jeremy McGrath. And it was just one of those things where I felt like I needed this childhood dream to come back to life, and I hope this video can bring some of those feels and dreams back to you, as well as bring you guys some information on these older two-strokes so they don't die, so we keep on living them, and they stay alive until hopefully the day we're all gone. So I'd like to introduce the riders that I've got with me. To my right, I have Brock Ray. To my left, Hayden Roberts. And then to my far left, Luke Santos. Felt like we have a really good team of riders, different ability levels and skill levels. Me, Vet. I'll let these guys introduce themselves. So hopefully you guys can get a good idea of what bike you may decide if you're trying to figure out what two-stroke you want to buy in the future. So I'm going to start with you, Brock. Tell us a little about yourself and ability and two-stroke experience.
All right, yeah, I'm Brock Ray. I'm from Bluffdale, Utah. Not a whole lot of two-strokes in my riding. I had the 85, but I wasn't much of a rider back then. So this is kind of the first time I've been able to ride a two-stroke. Get the skill out on that. And
yeah, because you're used to four-strokes, so being pretty much brand new to the big bike two-strokes, it's good to have that kind of perspective on them as well, especially in the engine department. But we'll move on to Hayden. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, Hayden Roberts here from Pleasantville, Utah, and pretty much, growing up, I raced two-strokes, from 50s all the way up to 85s, and then on to the 254 strokes after that. But I've dabbled in the two-stroke scene lately, just doing some stuff with some buddies. And the last two-stroke I rode was a 2004 125cc, and but yeah, just kind of bringing that back too is just having fun with them again. And
awesome. So we go from someone who's got little experience with two-strokes, like 85 experience, and then Hayden, who had pretty much grew up on two-strokes. I grew up on two-strokes a little bit too, at a 1990 CR125, 2001 CR125, and then I actually had an 03 YZ250, but that was pretty much around this time, around this 2005 year. So it's been so long since I've been on a two-stroke as well, until I hopped on and grabbed that KX250. So the past couple years I've been accustomed to two-strokes, but it was very cool to feel the differences between them. But we'll move on to you, Luke, for a little intro.
Yeah, so my name is Luke Santos. I spent a lot of time on obviously two-stroke 85s, and then I went the route of riding 125s and then 150s actually. And then when I went pro, I did the 250F thing for quite a while. And then now, like a couple years later, I've bought a 125 for fun. So I've got a 125 at home, but two-stroke or 250 two-stroke, not much time on them at all. I think I've rode one YZ250, and this was like probably 6-7 years ago, and it was for a couple laps. So that was my only knowledge on these bikes going into today.
So what I like about this shootout is I feel like we've got a lot of unbiased opinions about these bikes, just because it's been so long. It's really cool to have no opinion going into it, except me on the Kawasaki, I guess. But a little background on the bike. So I tried to take out and eliminate every single difference that I could in terms of like handlebars, different pipes, different tires. I wanted everything to be the same. And they also have Lectron 38 carbs, the brand new Lectron carbs on them. So I tried to make them as even of a playing field as possible, so we could really just focus on the handling and the engine characteristics. So we'll start from pretty much the top down. They all have Mika metals, Jeremy McGrath bend bars on them, Guts seat covers on them, Pro Circuit pipes and silencers, the Works pipes and the R304 silencers, the Lectron 38 carbs, the Fathead Racing heads. The engines were completely rebuilt with Wrench Rabbit kits, so hot rods, bearings, cranks, Vertex pistons and gasket sets. The Kawasaki actually did not receive a bottom end rebuild because that only has about 25 hours on it. That just received the Vertex top end kit rebuild. So they all have Dunlop MX53 tires on them, Attributes plastics, primary drive chain and sprockets from Rocky Mountain. I've had some really good luck with those. So they're cheap, cost effective, and they rival some of the best sprocket brands out there in terms of quality and what they're made out of. So I really like those. Did I miss anything, guys? ODI grips,
Yep.
they're on there as well. And how can we forget what differentiates them the most is the mellow graphics. Like I said, these are based off of the 2005 Supercross season. They're not replica bikes, they're themed. So thank you to the companies that I was able to work with, but I wanted to go with those themed looks like the 259 James Stewart, the 22 Chad Reed, number 4 Ricky Carmichael, and number 2 Jeremy McGrath. So this was my Mount Rushmore riders, and I wanted to bring that back not only for myself, but for everybody as well. So let's start out with a little bit of how they felt when you first sit on them, and then we'll kind of get into how they rode on the track. We've got a pretty good story about what happened with these bikes, but in terms of the Honda, my opinion, you just kind of feel at home on a Honda compared to the other bikes. The Suzuki, you do sit on top of it a little bit more. The Yamaha, you feel like you sit on top, and then the Kawasaki, you sit a little bit into it. But how'd you feel compared to when you were riding them and then Rider Triangle?
Yeah, I wasn't able to sit on the Honda, so not really sure how that one felt, but yeah, definitely felt like you sit on top of the Suzuki a little more than the other bikes, and it kind of feels like the pegs are a little higher on the Yamaha. I don't know if that was just me. It kind of felt like I was up a little more, but I don't know. I felt like the Rider Triangle honestly was like it felt best on the Kawasaki, just because sitting into it just felt a lot better than the rest of the bikes, but all pretty solid to me on that.
Hayden?
Yeah, so sitting on the bikes, I would say I was the only one who was able to really sit on the Honda from today. The Honda was a little bit wider, but it felt more stable when you sat on it. You know, having that little bit wider almost seemed like it would push into your legs a little bit more. You didn't have to really squinch into it as much. That's about as far as I got on that one. As far as the Suzuki, right as you sat on it, it was a little bit lower than the Yamaha. And then I would say for sure the Kawasaki, right as you sat on it, is like you're right into the cockpit. You know, I think you know, and out of all of them, again, Kawasaki pretty much made it the best cornering bike just because you're always there. But the Yamaha, right as I sat on it, it felt a little bit taller. So as you're riding it, it felt a little bit. You'd have to squinch down more to kind of get in your body position better on it, because the higher up you are, obviously you're going to feel top heavier. So when you want to come into stuff, you want to get squinched down, and so that's what it was out of the Yamaha. I felt like I had to squat down more when I was coming through stuff. So
Cool.
Okay. So I kind of feel like the Honda and the Yamaha both have flatter seats, and so it kind of feels more similar, at least to me, to like the new modern bikes, right? So like feels a little bit wider between the legs and then the flat seat, right? So then then you can notice things a lot more, and you're not necessarily in the pocket of the bike, right? Where like on the Kawasaki, like when you sit down, it feels like you're sitting like underneath the tank, like you're in the bike.
Totally.
Whereas the other bikes, you're a little bit more on top of it. So I don't know if that's something that, like with cornering, I really like the Cowie because I was able to get in and like be a part of the bike, it felt like. But then it almost felt like on the Cowie, when I was like the straight line stability, it felt a little stint bug, and how like the back end, like the back of the Cowie does come up a little bit more. And so like to get back or to move around a lot more is a little bit more tricky for me. But then the Honda and the Yamaha a little bit flatter. And then one thing really notable about the Suzuki too is like I felt like it was really narrow. So like using your legs, like you can really turn your feet in and like use your legs and maneuver the bike a lot more. And like I think that that's something that when you're jumping and you have a lot of, it feels like it gives you a little bit more freedom with the bike. And like I don't know, but it made me ride more creative, and I liked that. And it was really fun. So
I have to agree. I feel at home when I sit on the Kawasaki just because that's been my bike for the past couple years. But switching to the Yamaha or the Suzuki, I almost liked being on top of the bike. I felt like it had a little bit more of a modern bike type feel, modern four-stroke type feel. And coming from the Cowie, I thought I was just able to turn the Yamaha a little bit better than I was the Kawasaki. So interesting that we kind of all have similar and differing views in that. As far as, we'll dive into the specific handling next if you guys want to say anything else, but the suspension, I left it all stock, spring rates. I rebuilt all the forks with Pro X bushings and seals, Maxima oils, and then I rebuilt the rear shocks as well with the Pro X seal heads, and Moto Experts charged the rear shocks for me as well. So I wanted them to be as pretty much even playing field, coming in stock form with the suspension. Felt like the KYB forks on the Kawasaki and Yamaha. The Kawasaki especially had a little bit more hold up for me. The Yamaha did want to dive down a little bit, but felt like it had some good bottoming. But the fork on the Suzuki felt a little bit soft for me and wasn't able to really get on the Honda too much. We're going to dive into that still, but I felt like that held up a little bit better than the Suzuki.
Yeah, I'd say the suspension on the Yamaha was definitely pretty soft. I could tell just by sitting on it, like the forks go down so much. But honestly, I don't know, it's track wasn't that rough to the point where you need it too stiff. But I think the best forks, I kind of liked the Suzuki forks. They felt good to me. In terms of like the back end though, I feel like the Yamaha did a solid back end on it. I didn't feel like it wanted to get squirrely on me when I was going over the whoops and stuff.
I would say the Yamaha coming through the stuff when you're trying to stand up and trying to keep your momentum coming into it. It seemed you'd have to, on the Yamaha, have to kind of watch your speed as you're coming through stuff. You couldn't attack and be aggressive coming into your corners. The Yamaha though, once you're in it, because it seemed softer, it kind of held good and coming in and out, so it was good in those aspects. So it needed a little bit of work, but I would say as far as the Suzuki went, it was probably the best suspension out of all four of the bikes for sure. It is well balanced front and rear. The bike really would come in, plant good. Didn't seem like it was getting any pushback. On the Cowie, the only downfall on it that I would say was it was kind of a little bit spongy on the rear and kind of playing with it. You'd have to go quite a bit in on the rebound, or slowing the rebound down so it didn't come back and feel so pogly on you. The front felt great, felt solid and stiff, but like I said, the rear just seemed like when you're coming into stuff, it just wasn't complacent and holding anywhere. So you kind of had to put a little bit more weight in your riding style to kind of compensate for it and wanting to kick back on you.
Yeah, I think some good points there. I rode the RM last, and I think that was like the next runner-up for me. Like I had a lot of fun on it, and I think that the hold-up was the best on it out of the others. And the others, the thing is they work well, but they're just a little soft, right? So it's like if we could have really gotten them quite a bit stiffer, I think then we would have had a different answer for this, right? But for the most part, they all handled well, getting into the corners and getting them to lean over and everything. One thing I did notice about the RM though is the front brake was a little spongy, and like I was telling you earlier, is I used that to kind of hold me into the rut. And so I don't know if it was necessarily the front brake or the suspension helped standing up on me, but it was hard for me to get in and lean the bike over and stay down. But then, the Cowie, that felt great. I loved the cornering on that. I felt like straight line stability wasn't as good as the Yamaha, but then the Yamaha, if I shot that thing, it'd go straight, and it was great for me. So I really enjoyed that, and kind of getting more toward the back of the bike on that one. And they were all pretty good.
I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that we are at Mesquite Motocross in Mesquite, Arizona. I thought it was Nevada, but I guess it's Arizona. So we had a full private track completely prepped for us. It rained pretty hard here on Tuesday, which soaked the track with a bunch of water. I think with a lot more riders on the track, it would have dried out a lot quicker and we would have had some good lines. But it was definitely wet and spongy and soft, I would say, in the corners when we started riding at about 10, 11 o'clock this morning, which made it a little bit harder to differentiate and figure out the bikes in terms of handling as well as the motor characteristics. But would you guys say anything else about the track that had an effect on the handling?
I think that being that track was great. I mean, I've grown up riding Mesquite. First race here was when I was 10. I'm 24 now.
It's epic.
It is epic. I think that this is the best prep Mesquite that I've probably ever ridden, just because it like had so much moisture in it. They're using this new tiller, like it's fluffy, it's nice, great dirt. They've added sand, but I do think that then played a role in like how the bikes work, right? Because it was so deep, and then okay, different things are going to react different. You're going to sink, or is the bike going to be able to pull out of the mud, or like how is it when it's really slippery, and how's the bike handle, and can you keep it underneath you, and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of cool because it did play a role into today, and seeing how the bikes vary on different conditions,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
You guys have anything else, or I feel like I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when a track, is fresh like that. It's going to have a whole different, a feel for a bike, and that's what's awesome about motocross. Let's just be honest, is the difference in the diversity of it always changing, and that's why you can't always just go off of one setting for all these bikes, and you always got to be switching it up, because you're going to have a perfect groomed track one day and a total, chaotic track the next. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know I struggle in the mud, so. But next we'll move on to the engine characteristics. So like I had mentioned earlier in the video, this project has been presented by Electron Fuel Systems. So all of them have the new Lectron Bilotron 38 carb on them. The claim to Electron is their ease of adjustability. So the new design changes that they did make to the Electron, they have you can get thumb screws for the top of them now, where you can take the top of the carburetor off super easy within seconds, pull the slide out. There's a metering rod on the inside where you either turn it in to richen up the mixture or turn it out to lean it out. And then while you've got full throttle and you're on the gas in deeper situations like this, or in sandy situations where you need a little bit more fuel pumping into the motor at the top end ranges, there is a power screw, power jet, where it acts like a faucet. So if you open it up, it allows more fuel into the engine. And if you close it up, it leans out and puts less fuel into the engine. So we were adjusting these Lectron carbs a lot today, and they started out on the lean side. And I probably went in on the Suzuki at least a full turn on the metering rod. I think I went a quarter to a half turn richer on the Kawasaki, 3/4 turn in richer on the Yamaha, and I actually had to go leaner on the Honda. So Luke and I were testing these out the past couple of days in Warner Valley, and the Honda just seemed a little bit richer, so we did lean out the Honda a little bit. But unfortunately, guys, what happened to the Honda?
The worst happened.
Yeah. The worst, but the best happened.
We had a casualty today with the Honda guys. Could have been a bunch of factors. Could have been assembly on my part. I did get the cylinder re-sleeved with a new cast iron sleeve. So whether the power valve flap in there wasn't adjusted correctly, the RC valve cables weren't adjusted correctly, or the flap wasn't moving as smooth enough. There's a ton of factors that could have gone into it, but Hayden was the first one to take the Honda out today. We had just started up all the bikes, did a sweet little intro, took a couple warm-up laps, came in. Actually, no, we didn't come in. Hayden, finish the story.
Yeah, we just came into a corner, the bike died, and I guess let me just start out. If you feel like something's going on with your bike, trust your instincts, but that's what has happened to me. The bike came into a stop, and I've been riding for 26 years of my life, and I've had enough bikes blow up that but yeah, I just came into a corner, it stopped, it felt like it did seize up, the sounds and the feel, but I went against my own regard and kept going, and next it made it 4 or 5 more corners through, and I endoed off a jump. Bike died going up and straight yard sailed into the landing. So, but
which is hard to see at the start of the day, especially. I mean, for everyone, you never like to see that happen to anyone. So when I came around the corner and just saw everyone running and Hayden kind of like getting up all squirrely and the bike on the side, I'm like, first of all, my thought was like, Hayden, are you okay? But for the person who built the bikes, going into it confidently that I prepared these bikes well enough so we could get some great riding footage today, great comparisons, and that we could create some good content for you guys. And as a builder, you just want to see them work, So to see Hayden on the ground like that because of what might have happened, that's something I have done, was tough to see, but that's life. It doesn't always go as planned. When you dream it up, sometimes it goes perfectly, but like with this whole project, I've been getting slammed to the ground, but you just got to keep getting back up. So I think you had a great analogy earlier,
yeah, you know? 100%. You just got to keep getting up, and again, trust your instinct first, but we're just glad that we're all right today. And you know, and I think it's a perfect story that anything you're chasing for, just know that it's going to come with its challenges every time. So
we did get a little time on the Honda yesterday in the past 2 days in Warner Valley.
Yeah.
So in terms of the suspension, I actually thought the rear shock was pretty stable, in my opinion. I felt like it had good bottoming resistance and didn't really want to wallow on me too much. Fork was still a little bit soft for me. I'm 200 pounds. But that rider triangle cockpit, it feels like a Honda. It feels, you don't quite sit in it as much as you do the Kawasaki, but you also don't sit on top of it like you do the Yamaha or the Suzuki. So it's kind of a combination of those bikes, I felt. Bottom end did struggle a little bit, I felt, for me. Had to be on the clutch a little bit, but once it got into that top range of the mid into the top, I mean, it was pretty whoopy where we rode, so we couldn't get into it too deep, but felt like it had some potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, we spent probably like 30 minutes on it last night, right? And I felt like it was very stable because you were riding whooped out stuff. And I mean, there was one section that had a nice little hook into it and a jump into some rollers, right? And remember, that was the only one that I felt comfortable to actually jump and like hit the hook and still go with it. Whereas the other ones, I was like, maybe not. Like, I'm not quite feeling it. So it felt stable. It did lack a little on the bottom, like you say, but like once you get it up there, I mean, it felt like it'd pull hard and keep going. And I wish we would have had a little bit more time on it today. So.
Yep. So yeah, we've spent most of the day on the Suzuki, Yamaha, and Kawasaki. In terms of bottom end, I thought the Suzuki had the most four-stroke like power, in my opinion. Just from my experience on four strokes and two strokes, you didn't really need to be on the pipe as much in order for it to deliver down low. The Yamaha lacked a little bit more. It was a little less bottom end worthy, I guess, than the Suzuki, but I felt like once you pointed that thing straight and got on it, it just wanted to go. The Kawasaki, I was talking to you guys too, I felt like you need to be a little bit more precise with the gearing, but if you're in the meat of the power, it's really enjoyable to ride. So
Yeah.
Brock, you want to break it down?
I definitely agree on the Suzuki. I felt like, no matter how fast or slow I'd go into the corner, if I just kind of gave it a little gas, it'd make it out pretty easy without having to, give it too much clutch. But also agree with you on the straight line, the Yamaha just going up the hill. I always felt like the Yamaha just pulled so much up that hill, and if you can ride the Kawasaki right, you can ride it in the right gear, then I feel like that was kind of like the best power, especially up at the top end of it. But no, they were all pretty solid to me.
I'll toss it over to Hayden next, who had the most James Stewart-like time. It looked like on the Kawasaki, but we'll talk about the other bikes too.
I mean, honestly, when you hop on the cow, it's like all I could think. When I got the opportunity to be able to come down, all I could think was like throwing my leg over and wanting to be like him. So, it was definitely an enjoyable one. But going to the Suzuki, I would say that the Suzuki could come into your corners. If you made a mistake, the power and the bottom end in it would definitely get you out. So you didn't have to worry so much about, having to be on the gas or, you could definitely make more mistakes on the Suzuki and knowing it would get you out. The Yamaha, once coming in, I felt like I had to kind of keep on the gas all the way through the corners. If I let off or anything like that, it was going to die out. But on the straightaways and the whoops, everything, I felt like it definitely pulled and carried the most speed through that. Going up the hill, it was the easiest. The Kawasaki, it almost felt like you almost had to pretty much carry. You'd have to just stay on the gas, and if you wanted to slow down, you had to add just a little bit of brake in to kind of help balance yourself or guide the speed of it. But once you let off the throttle, you're gonna have to kind of fight back for the RPMs and the speed to come back. So, but again, it made up a lot in the handling in that situation. So.
Yeah. One thing I did notice about the YZ was, like, after even just hearing him now, I felt like maybe the gearing's maybe a little. Is the gearing the same on him? Like it's stock, right?
Stock gearing. So,
Okay,
I just remembered on the Yamaha third gear. So this was a desert bike when I bought it, and thanks for bringing this up because I completely forgot. That third gear is a little bit longer on the Yamaha compared to the other bikes. So I don't know if you felt something in third, but all the other gears are stock.
Yeah, so I felt like some of these corners were really muddy, right? So like sometimes you'd have to be in second, and I felt like second would run out quick, and then but if you did run out of gear, like it's not like you would keep going like the other bikes. So like the Suzuki and the Cowie, I felt like you could pull gears a little bit longer, whereas the YZ, I felt like it was just, you'd almost have to short shift a little bit more. The RM, like dude, the bottom end was incredible. Like it felt like that transfer of power from the bottom to the top was really good and smooth. So you could almost roll on a little bit more, not worry about the clutch as much, and pull it through. Whereas the other bikes, you kind of have to ride it more like a two-stroke, you know. And then the Cowie, like it just felt easy and excited and like just ready to race or something. Like it had me feeling good. But I did notice that like it was a little harder to shift. So like getting through the gears, I'd have to like crack the throttle a little bit more, or like be really good like pulling my clutch in and actually like picking a gear. Because like if you just come out of a corner real hot, you couldn't just like start clicking through gears as easily as the other bikes.
Compared to four strokes. So obviously everybody's on the four-stroke bikes now. Are two-strokes still a thing, or would you much rather be on a four-stroke? Depends on what you're doing, I guess.
I'd say if you had a little bit more modern suspension on it, then I'd go to two-stroke just because, I don't know, I think there's just something different about riding them. They're just, so different. And you get on a four-stroke, and today I noticed that I'm pretty lazy. I thought I was in pretty good shape, but you ride a two-stroke and it's completely different. But like I was talking to my dad about the Yamaha. I feel like if we just had just a little stiffer on the front end and in the back end, then it'd be solid. So I definitely think they're definitely still a thing. It's just if you get the suspension right, then you're good.
I would say two ways to go about this right now is if you're a skilled rider, like me and Luke, they're going to be a blast. They're so fun. It brings back that childhood memory of just being able to whip stuff around. And if you're a big pit bike person, that's how I compare it. It's like hopping on a pit bike, but just a little bit faster and a little bit bigger. But man, it's just, you can really lay these bikes over. The four strokes are so much heavier, and it's almost like if you've been riding a four stroke for a long time, your body's built to handle, a bigger, heavier bike, and then you throw yourself on one of these, man, it's just like, it's like riding a little toy, or riding a BMX bike with a bigger motor in it. It's just like you can whip them around. It's so much fun. I'm going to go in as a trainer aspect, though. As being a trainer, though, like I can only express that this is a two-stroke is still the best way to go. If you're still just getting into motocross and you want to learn skill and become a better rider, this is it. This is going to teach you how to clutch, how to brake, how to lessen your mistakes, not always relying on the power to get you out of things. And it just makes you think more, where a four-stroke, you can get lazy sometimes knowing that the power is always there. So I would still go, two-stroke. I'm a big believer right now, man. It's coming back. OCA, up our local track up in Ogden. A lot of the vet dudes are going back to the two-strokes, so it's a thing right now. So
it really is, especially in the woods too. And I enjoy two-stroke in the woods. But Luke,
I think all around great points. I think that two-strokes are great for motocross. I think they're easy to rebuild. They're cost-effective. They're really fun, and they make you a better rider, right? So, for me, absolutely, like I want to go buy a YZ 250 or maybe an RM right now because it's so fun. And I think like if you were to get some suspension set up for you, for your ability, your weight, etc. I think the opportunities would be endless. I think it's really good, really helps you with your riding. And then like you were saying, like they're so light, the power to weight ratio is incredible because you can do so much with that. And how you can move the bike underneath your legs. You can corner it, you can go into a turn and like lay it over and really get in there, but like the bike will then just stand back up and go, whereas a four stroke, you gotta either you gotta hit a turn well to get it back up and go straight, or it's not gonna. So I think we need them. We need them to stay around. We need them to come back. We should all go buy them. We should all refurb them. We should do what Greg's done. And
there was a new electric bike announced like yesterday or today or a couple days ago. And I was like, we're still out here smoking, guys. So, well, you kind of led me into like my next question. overall, if you had one bike that you're going to go out and take home with you in your truck today and have to fight over them, you know, what would they be, and what would you do? What would be the first thing you do to it to kind of make it a little bit better for you? And I think you mentioned you hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think suspension, right? Because that's like, it's like your own shoes, you know? You want it to fit right and so you can go and run or whatever. So getting your suspension set up for yourself is crucial. And then, I mean, that changes the whole characteristic of the bike and how it's going to handle and work and everything for you. And I mean, I think since I answered this first, I'm definitely going to say I want to take the YZ home because I know he's interested in it. So we'll have to talk about this later. But I mean, I got my eye on it. So
Awesome.
It's a good bike, though.
Cool. Hayden?
You know, out of all of them, there's something about the Cowie. I came to your house last night and it was just, I mean, everything about it, I was just like so enthralled by it. And I don't know if it's the look or just growing up, but honestly, the Suzuki is probably the better bike for sure. Probably had a little bit of everything, suspension, you know. But at the end of the day, I still think if I was to take a bike home right now, it'd be the Cowie. Just tied to it right now. So.
Yep. Is it the green frame?
It's the green.
It's the green frame. I think Kawasaki never should have got rid of that green frame.
They shouldn't have. I don't. You know, and the James Stewart. I mean, if you know the history of motocross too, it's just like James Stewart is just. He made that bike look so good when he would scrub. So.
I feel like you remind me of James Stewart out there, especially when you came over this jump. That rear fender is just like pointing to the sky, and I'm like, that's it right there. So it was cool to see all you guys out here riding, ripping them. For me, obviously I've had some experience with the Kawasaki, and when I can ride it right, I love that bike. I absolutely do. Like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, you do need to be a little bit more precise with being in the right gear, especially for me, that guy, not always the fastest. I feel a little bit faster when I'm obviously on the track more, but not being able to ride over the last year because I've spent time building these things. It was harder for me to ride the Kawasaki today and over the past few days. So today, if I had to pick a bike, I think I would go with the Suzuki. I'm more of I don't rev them as high as I noticed you guys do. I kind of lug them a little bit more. So just being able to have that bottom end feel and connection and traction with the RM really suited my riding style. I like the handling of the Yamaha, so if we can kind of combine those a little bit. I liked being on top of the bike a little bit more rather than in it, just because it was a little bit different than I'm used to. So maybe it was just that new wow factor to it. But I enjoyed that with these bikes, so if I were to pick one, I would go the Suzuki and do a little suspension work to it. Like Luke said, it's like buying a pair of running shoes or buying your favorite jacket, clothes, hat, jeans, whatever. And I think that bike would be really good. So I'll have to see what bike I choose next. Still on the fence though. Brock?
Yeah, I know. Like Luke said, I'm with Luke. I'd go with the Yamaha for sure, and just exactly what he said. Just set up suspension for me, and I mean, I really feel like that's really all it needed to even be set apart from the newer Yamahas. That's really all they changed, was just updating the suspension. But no, it felt solid to me. It just brakes, the handling on it, and just I don't know. Maybe it's the Yamaha blood in me that chooses it or whatnot, but it just felt really good and solid to me, and yeah. So
in terms of looks, like the first one that you saw, was it the Yamaha still?
No, I'd go with the Suzuki. Of course, Ricky Carmichael, has that look to him, and
it's hard to beat the GOAT sometimes.
It is.
For me, it was the Yamaha. I was a big Yamaha guy back in the day. Like I said, I had the 03 YZ250, huge Shad Reed fan when he came over to the States. So I just immediately fell in love with the Yamaha, and surprisingly, when I was building these bikes, I wasn't that excited for it. But when I put the graphics on from Mellow Design, I think the Yamaha looks the best out of all these bikes.
I would say it was the Honda and the Cowie that caught my eye right off the bat. Just red always looks good, always does catch the eye, but at the end of the day, Cowie's the way.
Luke?
Man, I agree with him on the Honda. And I don't know why that. I mean, I grew up racing Honda 85s, and I think that like the two-strokes seem like iconic from them because I think they're pretty bad, you know. And I feel like you don't see a lot of like throwback Hondas made as much as you do like Yamahas, because I feel like the Yamaha is like more accessible to get parts, and you know, like they're still quite current. So you know, man, I just really like that Honda. So it really caught my eye.
Awesome. Well, I think we really hit everything that we could. And is there any last remarks that you guys have on them, or
I think
anything?
brakes.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Brakes, yeah.
Brakes.
Brakes. You gotta talk to the mechanic about that guy.
Just they vary though. Like
Yeah.
the different like. I don't know. I guess looking at them all, they all have pretty standard rotors, except for the Cowie has more of a wave rotor and it's a floating disc, right? I guess they're all floating, but you know, like the Cowie and the Yamaha, like the front brakes were really good, and where the Suzuki was a little more like what's the word?
Spongy.
Spongy, yeah,
Spongy.
a little more spongy. It still seemed like even if it was tighter, it wouldn't have still worked as good as the other. So like, I mean, maybe different cylinders or whatever, but those other two were good.
I did enjoy the Honda brake when we were riding it the past couple days.
Yep.
That thing was probably the best front brake out of all the bikes.
I was gonna say too was foot pegs. I think I forgot to mention to you, but like coming down, we got a gnarly hill here that you can't see, but this thing's like massive, like Glen Helen massive steep. But one thing I did notice on all of them was that, like, yeah, if you're gonna get a new bike, probably get some brand new foot pegs too, because you're gonna be trying to push as hard as you can in foot pegs from not sliding forward. So.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll wrap this thing up. I just want to say thank you to you guys, everyone who's here participated today. Brock, Hayden, Luke, my wife Samantha, Brock's dad, John, Mason Litchfield in the back helping wrench on these bikes. He got out there on a little bit of them as well. So we got some first impression videos from him. Mesquite Motocross for hosting us today. It couldn't have been a more perfect day weather-wise to be here. I'm super fortunate to have a great day out here. We're all in one piece, which is awesome, and you can't ask for anything more than that, I would say. So I'd love to thank all the companies involved in this build, and to thank all the viewers for helping support me through this entire project. If you've been following along on the channel, if not, great time to hop on the train. But it's just been a dream come true, and to see it come to fruition, it's just been, I don't even know what to say. There's no words that I can describe the feeling that I'm feeling right now, which is really awesome. So I wanted to bring back this cool little two-stroke era from 2005, which was, this season just had some crazy hype. Again, this is my Mount Rushmore of riders, and I hope that you guys kind of feel that excitement, and that brings back some memories with you guys too. So I want you guys to leave a comment below. Let me know if you guys have any experiences with these bikes yourselves. Definitely share those below so it can help other people if they're interested in riding these bikes. And if you have any cool stories about these riders, or just which one's your favorite in general, I love to read them, and I know everybody loves to read those kind of stories and bring back the goosebumps on their arms from those days. So I want to say thank you guys, and keep it real.
Keep it smoking, baby.
Keep it smoking. Oh, I forgot my piece. But hold on, we're not done yet. I forgot.
We got to redo the whole
good
thing.
thing I messed up the ending. I didn't freaking nail the dismount. Come on.
Dismount.
But again, so thank you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. So giddy. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, ride hard, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace. Still gives me anxiety every time they're out there. It's like worse than when I'm on it.
This thing is good. Wow. Like I'm so surprised right now. I don't know why.
Hey, dude, it's just.
I feel unstoppable on it.
Yeah.
Like, you can whip and corner. The bottom end's incredible. Yeah, I'm so happy. That was so fun.